I've already got the booze in the glass for anyone who's wondering. For Ian, our viewer.
Actually, we haven't been doing too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in the dozens of listens for episodes on the in podcast format, and I mean we're getting 3 or 4 views on YouTube. The shorts
Whatever.
do a little better, but whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Nerding Under the Influence.
Yeah, exactly. If you're listening, just remember we're not doing this for you. We're doing it because it's fun for us.
What are you drinking?
The same as last week, actually. I've got some gin and grapefruit juice and ginger ale, and it's
Mm.
I went looking to see if is this a combination that has been done before, and yeah, kinda, but I don't think it has a specific name, and it usually comes with lime as well, which is an addition that I think I might throw in there someday.
No,
Yeah.
I've never been a gin guy.
Me
Eh.
either. I picked up a cooler. Well, I say I picked up a cooler. My wife, who goes shopping at the liquor store for me and buys cans based on color, which is a phenomenal experiment. I highly suggest you do it because you'll get some stuff where you go, oh, I don't want to drink that, and some stuff where you're like, oh, that's interesting. I never would have thought of trying that. And this was one of those things I would never have thought of trying, and I really enjoyed it. So I assume that you have some variety of cider.
Yeah, I got the leftovers from last Friday. Was it when we met up?
Last Friday, where we actually
So I
met
got
in
a
person.
yeah, I got a Thornberry Honeycrisp apple cider and extra spicy Caesar.
Ooh, can't see a Caesar, not want a Caesar. It's exactly how they market Caesars. You
Mm,
really have to watch Letterkenny, man. All of my quotes just go.
it's true.
Yeah.
I'm all right. So what have you been up to this week?
Oh, tons and tons of golf. Too much golf, in fact. It's been. I mean, I live in Northern Ontario, and it has been just excruciatingly hot, which for our friends in Arizona is moderately warm. But I was out. What's today? Today is Friday. I was out last night, and we teed off at like 6:30, right? Which is like evening. You'd expect it to be getting cool, and it was 32 degrees and 150% humidity. It was just, I mean, I lost 20 pounds, honest to God.
I believe
Just,
it.
just water. I drank 4 liters of water, and I sweat all of it straight back out. It was crazy. How about you?
So that was what 32. Probably a humidex made it feel like 38.
Oh, at least.
What's that? That's like a damp what 109 or something for Ian, who's now living in California.
uh, it's Death Valley temperatures. That's what that is.
Yeah, I haven't been up to much this week actually. Um, been taking a break because we wrapped up last week. There was a lot of drinking, a lot of stuff going on pretty much every night. Staff event Thursday. Met up with you the Friday. Father's Day up at the in-laws Sunday. Got the whiskey there, and like I don't drink. This whole show is an excuse for me to occasionally have a drink, and chatting with you is secondary, right? It's just an
Oh yeah,
excuse.
it's all
Yeah,
about the booze.
and I did all right. I don't have the stamina I used to have, but I didn't have bad hangovers like Thursday night. I did a fair bit of drinking.
Yeah, it's shocking when like 20 years after the last time you really tied one on, you go and have a bunch of uh, a bunch of drinks with the boys, and then you think to yourself, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna wake up in the morning," and then you wake up in the morning, but you don't really wake up in the morning.
It
You
was a little slow.
yeah,
Was a little
yeah.
slow. So this week I've been keeping it low key. A lot of couch time with Tanya. Really, just not getting up to a heck of a lot. Odd week at work too. So I was crunching for about 2 weeks getting a surprise build done, and shipped that towards the end of last week, and this week has just been sort of whack-a-mole with miscellaneous maintenance and some additional training for the new guy and sort of planning for upcoming work. I also have vacation coming up here in a week and change, and just making sure that everything's in good shape for that. So, made for a quiet week. It's going to be a busy weekend, though. I got to get outside, do some yard work, some catching up, big grocery
Oh,
shop.
this is so weird for me to say. I'm actually kind of looking forward to doing yard work again. Um, like all of my youth, I spent at least 2 days a week cutting grass, and I hated it. I loathed it. And like in my young adult days, it would, like, wherever I was, there was always some grass to take care of. It's just like, oh God, it's such an imposition, right? You got to go out and you got to do the thing, and you got to go in straight lines. You got to do all that stuff. And I never really understood it because, like, grass is dumb, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
grass is literally a throwback to the days when you were rich if you had sheep to crop your grass. And like, it makes no sense to me. And now I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, I don't want grass. Like, the house that we bought has got a small lawn, but the plan is to slowly sort of plant it with, you know, ground cover, no mow stuff, bee friendly, wildflowers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of, this is where that rock goes, this is how I'm going to wind a path through whatever kind of garden we end up with. That has, like, a great deal of appeal to me again, or really for the first time, because before it was, man, I just want to finish cutting the grass so I can get back to playing video games.
Yeah. Part of it is age.
Hmm.
Another part is obviously it's different when it's your grass, right? Like, or your garden.
Hmm. Yeah, and the bees.
Mm. So, speaking of playing video games, uh, that's the one contribution I have for main topic discussion. I had an interesting week. Like I say, I tried to keep it low key. And I thought to myself, you know what? I haven't gotten really into a new game in a while, or an old game, or whatever, a different game. I did another sort of replay of Satisfactory, and kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm ready to put it down. There's a big update coming out. There's a bunch of new games that I'm looking forward to in the fall, like September. Starfield's coming out. That'll probably be the number one game. Um, Baldur's Gate 3. The expansion pack for Cyberpunk's actually looking pretty damn good from what I've seen of it. And they've really, they still haven't fulfilled all their promises with that game, but they've made it a good enough game that, like, I'm looking forward to some extra content. I'm
I
thinking about
liked
going.
Cyberpunk. I
Yeah, I
really,
really did too.
I really enjoyed it.
So I thought, what the hell? I'll find a game and play it. And this happens a lot with me, and it's getting worse every time it happens. That sort of weird indecision, like erectile dysfunction for making decisions about what to play, where I literally spent 3 evenings, multiple hours each evening, looking through my game library, looking through basic storefronts. Hey, what's Steam got on? What's Epic Games got on? I subscribed to Microsoft's Game Pass, right, for Xbox. I get all the PC Game Pass games like free. I could just download them. I mean, I pay for the service. Um, my Xbox is at my daughter's apartment right now, so I don't just have it to play, but like I can stream stuff onto the computer, or I can play like legit PC games. And in 3 evenings of looking for something to play, do you think I could find something?
Been there, done that, man. I've walked through Blockbuster a bunch of times going, what do I want to watch? And then just gone home and said, screw it, it's too late.
Yeah,
But
like
having said that, though, I mean, you say erectile dysfunction for choosing games, and I think what you might need is some Videoagra.
oh, do you want me to edit that one out?
Ah,
Nope, fuck
no.
it, we're keeping it.
Oh no, we're absolutely keeping it. I'm proud of that one. That's like dropping a dookie in the elevator.
Yeah, and I know that people run into that when like it's browsing Netflix, right? Because you got like
Oh
a
yeah.
buffet of absolute garbage, and most of it, like you're only picking something to half watch it. It's wasting
Oh
time.
yeah.
But I never thought I'd get that way with like video games.
I think I think because I know that it really only happened, and this is kind of a funny thing because I've watched this happen over my lifetime. Is that when I was a kid? Now, mind you, I grew up in like small town northern Saskatchewan. Uh, like if you wanted to go to the movies, you didn't go, what do I want to watch? You went to the theater and watched what was in the theater.
Hmm.
Right. And then sort of like in my teen years, I moved to Ontario and there was, like there's the Videoplex or whatever in the mall where there's like 6 or 8 or 10 movies to choose from, which seemed like a really cool thing. And now, I mean, like video on demand forever for years and days. And there's sort of two things with that. The number one is it's really hard to sort through and see like what's good, what would I enjoy? I don't
Hmm.
know. And on the other hand, because there is so much available, and uh, I do recognize, by the way, the irony of the thing that I am about to say is that there is a demand for content to consume, right? Which is the reason why you and I can do this and someone somewhere is listening to it. But at the same time, it sort of gives you like sort of paralysis by analysis,
Hmm.
right? Where if there were two choices, you'd go, well, this one is obviously better. I'll watch that. But because there's an infinite choice, it's, well, what if the next page, if I scroll down, is even better, right? And that's, I mean, that's almost a metaphor for modern life. Like
It's true.
everything, it's like swipe left, swipe left, swipe left. Just keep swiping left because eventually it'll get better, right? Well, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Like choosing video games is the new meta, I guess.
Yes, I don't know. I almost think you could probably like hit your scroll wheel on Infinite Coast or whatever, and just pick whatever comes up and play it, and you'd be happy.
Well, that's how it used to be for us, right? Remember when we played games not because like we even knew what the game was? It's just, hey, this
This
is
is new.
new and I
Yeah.
haven't played it before. I'll try it. If I don't
Well,
like it, I'll stop playing. But the onboarding process was easy. And it's not like there was a limited selection of options like in our heyday,
mhm.
right? 20, 25, 30 years ago, like there was lots of games.
Not as quite as much as there is
No, not as
today,
much as there is
but
today, but enough where like you could spend all day looking at the menu,
you
you know?
could, you could.
And I didn't. And I don't know what the hesitancy is. Like I find myself the more and more that I like look at games and I'm like, "Oh, that looks kind of interesting." Yeah, yeah. And then I start looking at the old games that I've played already. And that's actually sort of what happened. I went way way back. I ended up installing a newer, well, newer in quotation marks, relative to when I was into it before, a newer PlayStation emulator. So the first PlayStation,
Mhm.
and installed Breath of Fire 3, which is a Capcom early sort of 3D ish 2D sprites Japanese RPG based on a series. Like the first two games I absolutely loved on the Super Nintendo. And this was a game that, I mean, we were both broke as kids, so I didn't have a PlayStation when PlayStations were new. I rented one, and I'd rent it and a game that I wanted to play, and I could only afford to do it for about a weekend before I had to take it back. And you get into games like JRPGs, and
Oh my
it's,
God, it's weeks.
yeah, I mean, if you go really hard at it, you might do it in 4 or 5 days, kind of thing. But I never finished it, and I've played through the first two games, the SNES ones, like I don't know, 5 times each,
Hmm.
and they're fun. And the second one was on my like list of favorite games of all time, but it wasn't good. Like it was solid, but it is almost famous for having one of the worst localizations of all time of any game. Period.
Someone set up us the bomb.
Oh, it's so bad, and it's bad in a way that almost is juvenile. and the series itself, even the more well localized ones, kind of have that juvenile feel that you get when you. And I didn't really notice it obviously when I was younger. Like I was a teenager playing them, but when you go back to like some of your favorite fantasy books
Mm,
from when you were young and you read them, and it's like, oh wow, this feels like it was written for kids now.
yeah, Piers Anthony. Like
Yes.
the Xanth books. I mean, I still enjoy them, but it's like reading his dialogue is just. It's like, have you ever met a human?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've actually read much Xanth. I read through Incarnations
Yeah.
like a couple times, but
Incarnations were pretty good books, and they had some of the same thing, but it was a little bit smoothed out in those ones. In the Xanth books, like if you think about some of the conversations in Incarnations were a little bit awkward.
mhm.
Um, Partially, I think because he's an intelligent man and he's a good writer. I think it was because he was intentionally writing for younger people, right? So he was trying to make the dialogue really straightforward.
Mhm.
Um, but the Xanth books are actually written for even younger audience. So, like, especially when they're having conversations about like romantic things, it's like no one ever says that ever, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just bump, like I like you, we should be friends.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
YA, like young adult fiction, is a genre now.
yeah.
Do you ever recall it being sort of identified as its own genre back then?
No, no, and I mean, like there were some things like there. It definitely didn't have its own section on the bookshelf, but there was definitely some stuff that you could tell was targeted for a younger audience.
Hmm.
Sunrise West pops to mind, which is my wife's favorite book. And I mean, like it took years for her to convince me to read it, and when I finally did, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, but like there was lots of stuff like that was definitely targeted at young adults, but it wasn't called out as such.
No, and I'm amazed looking back on it, like how much of it I was actually sucked into.
Yeah.
Like the majority of the fantasy I read. There was the David Edding stuff, the stuff that was sort of formulaic, kind of mainstream, but then I got into some of the less well known authors, and then some like Tanya Huff that were a little bit more well known. And like I read some of that now, and it's cringy in a way that like makes my skin crawl.
Mm.
Like some of the interaction between like characters that are supposed to be even quasi romantically involved almost almost comes across as like a little rapey at times, and
Oh,
just
very.
very it's and these are like books written by women too, where I wouldn't necessarily expect that, and it didn't really I didn't notice it as much when I was reading it when I was younger,
Oh
but I go
no,
back and read it. Joanne Burton, Sarah Douglas is another one that
that name
some
is
of her
familiar.
Starman series of books.
Oh, okay. Is
Um,
Douglas spelt with two S's?
I think so.
Okay,
I'm not
yeah,
100% sure. Books are on my shelves downstairs, I could tell you, but
yeah.
anyway.
There was an awful lot of, and there was, oh my god, like watching through like for example all this the stuff that they watch, the action movies and stuff from the 80s on Red Letter Media, where it's you look at like, okay, yeah, we get it, being rapey is shorthand for being evil, but can we have like not this,
Yeah.
you know like and I think like, it's a little bit good news that we're finding it very off-putting
Oh
now,
yeah. And it's not the
because
the bad guy rapey stuff. Like I mean, that was intended to be off-putting, but it's
right,
when you've got like a romantic-ish relationship between two people that are supposed to be protagonists, and
yeah,
it's written as if this is supposed to be
a
like
little too
hot,
aggressive,
when
yeah.
somebody's being like overly assertive, and I'm like,
Not so much. Well, I mean, you
hmm,
look back at like all of the media and fiction that we consumed, like from, I mean, the 50s. I got, is it Robert Howard? I always forget. The guy who wrote the Conan stuff. Is it Robert? It doesn't matter. Um, and because I enjoyed the movies, I enjoyed the comic books as a kid, you know, and yeah, it's a little bit brutal, and it's definitely it's definitely sort of, you know, misogynist angled, and I very much spot that now. I didn't when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm trying to read through like some of the original books, and I'm like this is unacceptable. Like this should always have been unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And like in the 80s at least, I mean, like all of that stuff just kind of went, it's that's just how it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and it shouldn't be. And I think that's changing. I hope that's changing slowly. But yeah, no, I agree. There's an awful lot of the fiction that we consumed as teenagers that was. Have you ever gone back and watched MASH? I can't remember if I had mentioned this before,
Yeah.
but watching the interaction between doctors and nurses on MASH, and I'm like, somebody thought that this was the appropriate way to like
Mm-hmm.
portray this relationship. I'm like, this is not, no, 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 just no. And I think like I think that it was intended to be satirical, but it was played so straight that especially when I was a kid, like I looked at that and thought, oh, okay, well this is, you know,
This is
like
how you do it. Yeah.
this is how you're supposed to behave. Right? It's one of the reasons that they've taken Pepe Le Pew off the air is because teaching kids that this is how you should interact is a bad idea. As adults, yeah, it's kind of funny because here's, you know, like this, oh, it's weird because they don't know, and it's, you know, it's not cute, but you can appreciate the humor an adult with a fully developed brain.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, it's just like, oh well, Pepe Le Pew did it, so I should do it too.
Mm-hmm. And like I can excuse some of my own ignorance as a youth.
Yeah.
What I have a hard time wrapping my head around now, and I know this is a topic that like nobody wants to listen to, but you know, the whole sort of politicizing and this fucking culture war bullshit, you know, woke this, woke that. Like I watch that stuff and I read that stuff and everybody's, well, that's just how it was back then. But I have a hard time wrapping my head around how adults back then
Didn't go,
couldn't
hey, what?
yeah, like why didn't they back then feel the way I feel about that kind of stuff now? Like I grew up in a time where that was acceptable like they did,
Yeah, except now
you know?
we know. I think there's got to be someone because I know for a fact that there's like someone started making noise about that kind of stuff. I mean, someone woke up.
I but like it's not that somebody sat and taught me this
No,
is right and this is wrong. Like
no.
that shit makes my skin crawl. Like I there is a like an instinctive like very sort of subconscious revulsion that I have seeing that shit as an adult. And I don't know if I'm just special and sure some of that's probably been shaped by I don't know, maybe seeing it being so turned off by it and just for so long wanting to be different. I really don't know what it is, but I can't imagine human beings,
Uh,
men, women, whatever side of whatever political spectrum you want to put yourself on, just thinking that that was okay and how people should interact with each other. You know, and I'm not even talking about like, you know, racism and the rest of that kind of stuff, like just the interactions between like men and women.
it's yeah, it's difficult to. I can only assume that it's because everyone was drunk and doing a lot of coke.
You know, and I find it interesting juxtaposed with like the over not overprotectiveness, appropriate protectiveness over your children, your daughters, right? That idea that, you know,
Oh
that boy
yeah,
isn't even going to look at my daughter sideways, but then you're okay doing that same shit to like a
Someone
woman who
else's
was
daughter.
somebody's daughter,
Yeah.
like how can that incongruity exist and you not just be like, holy shit, like it's obvious.
Human
I'm a
beings,
big hypocrite.
yeah, human beings are masters of hypocrisy. That's really what it is.
I know we're
Oh,
just friggin'
this is definitely
monkeys in
nerdy.
nice clothes, right? But man.
Yeah,
Anyway, getting back to the topic that I was originally discussing, I've started into this game. I'm like 2 hours into it, and I'm really struggling with the combination of like juvenile writing that has not been translated overly well. And did you get into JRPGs at all?
almost never. I think I played like one, and it was not actually a JRPG. It was like something that someone thought was like a JRPG.
Mm. They're the older ones. Like there's they're I mean, they're modeled after like old style D&D, really. Even the Japanese stuff, like the mechanics aren't the same, but like the general idea is there. Party combat, random encounters, and like it's here's a whole bunch of like grind, and here's your little nugget of reward, be it story or something cool that's happening, and then more grind, random encounters, fetch quests, all of that shiz that's common in even RPGs today,
Yes.
paced out so deliberately slow. And I was into it then.
It's funny. As we get older, I find myself with a strange combination of both more and less patience,
Hmm.
right? I find that I'm willing to wait for things a little better, but I'm less willing to waste time on things.
Hmm.
Right. So if it's like, oh, okay, I have to wait until Tuesday to do that, that's fine. But when Tuesday comes, I want to get it done, and I want to be done. It's one of the reasons I kind of stopped playing EverQuest is that I was having fun, but I was also spending a lot of time just playing EverQuest, right? And you're literally just punching rats and hoping that they, you know, I don't know, they fill their guts with slightly more gold coins than last time. And the rats
Hmm.
get bigger, and the amount of gold gets bigger. And there's some sort of interesting teamwork mechanics to do on stuff, but at the same time, it's like I have a job, right? And as a kid, I was like, that was cool. I was into it. It was great. But now I don't have.
But here's the
Yeah.
funny thing. How old were you when you started playing EverQuest?
I was 21. It was 1999, and I was born in 1974. So let me do some quick math. Is like uh,
25.
84, 94. Yeah, right about there. 24, 25.
So an adult with a job,
Yeah. Well, I think I was in college actually at the time. I don't know. It was a really long time ago.
old enough to know what work felt
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
and maybe not seeing a game like that as work in the way you would now.
Well, true. I mean, at the time, whatever job I had was lifting things and putting them down. So sitting at a desk to me was not work. Now I sit at a desk all day. It's like, this is a little too much like my actual job.
I'm going to go out and walk 5 miles playing golf and not
Yeah.
walk straight for another week instead.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Speaking of old games, though, I saw two old games sampled in some video that I saw on YouTube. I looked them up to try and figure out what they were. And it was like the two that I sent you. It was Outer Worlds and what's the other one? And it doesn't matter. So I started playing Outer Worlds, and I'm like, huh, this is basically Cyberpunk before Cyberpunk happened, kinda, right? Like not with the aesthetic, but the sort of the idea of hey, the corporations run everything. I'm like, ooh, this is not a new idea.
No.
And I've been reading Kurt Vonnegut slowly because it's a little bit of a slog to get through. And it's like, he wrote this in 1950 something, and it is literally dystopian corporate run. Oh, so this is not new. It's been going on for a while now.
So,
Just
what have you been thinking of the game?
so far I don't mind it. It's a little bit. I'm not very far in. I mean, I literally just I did the little tutorial bit, and then
Mm-hmm.
got to town. And it has that same problem that every video game has, where it's entirely obvious that you're the protagonist, right? Because everybody's just sitting there waiting for you to talk to them, and it's like, I have a mission for you. Really? Why? Like, I've literally never gone anywhere in my life and someone said, I have a mission for you. Like, this is not it's speaking of stilted writing and weird conversation. Like, that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little off-putting when it's like, "Hi, we've never met before, but would you like to retrieve some documents for me?" Uh, but I mean, like, the controls are fine, the game is fine, the graphics are fine, the sound is fine, the voice acting is fine. I'm
Yeah.
interested to find out what happens next. I'm just having trouble finding time to actually play.
I wonder if that's the reason why I like Mass Effect so much. When you think about your sort of typical hero's journey, right?
hmm The ugly
Farm
duckling.
boy, yada yada yada. Yes, those conversations don't feel natural. Like they sort of pull you right out of it. Like, but the game needs to happen.
Yes.
Where you look at a game like Mass Effect, it's almost like the opposite of what I would recommend for D&D characters. Here's a character that has some history and everybody has a reason to talk to him.
hmm Yeah, they did. That's one of the things, and I think I've mentioned this before. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it in the context of this show. Is that like I really enjoy the Marvel superhero movies, all of them. The good ones, the bad ones, the ones that everyone on the internet hates. I enjoyed. I don't think that they're like Hall of Fame worthy, but every single one of them so far has been entertaining. The only sort of objection that I have to most of them, and the reason that a lot of them don't work, is because you start with, here's how, like, the origin story. Like, every
Yeah.
single one of them is the origin story. And then it's like, well, it's been 5 years, so we better do the origin story again to remind you of what the origin story is that we already know about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 6-year-olds who have literally never heard of Spider-Man before know how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. We don't need to show it again. Or you can show it in a 30-second montage. And now let's get on to some kind of an adventure.
Well, and that's the good thing about the Marvel Spider-Man, at least, is that they didn't show it again.
Nope. He just showed up.
Yep, was already kind of doing it.
I think they did do like some kind of a flashback, I think, for the
Nope,
Tom Holland thing.
nope. There
I
was
could
just
have.
the one scene. It was it in Civil War where Tony Stark comes over and sitting in his bedroom and grilling him about being Spider-Man, and he just says, "Yeah, it happened." And then when you got the power to do something and then you don't, it's on you. That's why he does
With
what he
great
does.
power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Which is you know what? I have no problem with that line, but the delivery was
Oh yeah,
weird.
yeah, yeah. The I actually haven't watched through all of those Spider-Man movies. The
Yeah. Evil Dead
uh
guy.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. God,
you know
I'm
what
having
though?
one of those
Oh
those
yeah.
days where I
You're
can't remember anything.
Oh dude, you're old. Your brain doesn't work anymore.
Tobey Maguire, Andrew
Yeah.
Garfield. Sorry,
Yes. Well, the director. What was the director's name? Um,
Sam Raimi. Yeah.
Sam Raimi. You know what though? The absolute blessing of Sam Raimi having done the Spider-Man movies is that Bruce Campbell made a cameo. Bruce Campbell should have had thousands of jobs. Like, everything that he's ever in, he just owns the screen. And yes, he's a cheesy actor, but that's okay. Like, he's perfect for play. And there's an appetite for that kind of stuff. Why has he never
Hmm.
had a leading role? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Briscoe County Jr.
Yes, that's the one thing that kind of came to mind.
You know what he was
Um,
really good in though is Burn Notice. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever watched that show.
no.
He played as like a supporting character in that named Sam Axe, who was like an ex-marine, and he just always he was a ladies' man. I don't think you ever saw him with an actual lady, but he was always driving a different new car,
Hmm.
and the different new car was one that he had borrowed from a lady friend, right? Like he was just he always had a new sort of sugar mama, and it was so perfect. Like he was just perfect for that role,
Yeah,
and he nailed it.
and he's a guy now. I mean, I've loved almost everything he's done, whether it was obviously the Evil Dead stuff. I mean, I quote
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness still almost daily.
This is my boomstick.
Yeah. Um, he also had a role. I don't know if he showed up in the Hercules series, but he was definitely on
Yes.
Xena a fair bit as the character.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, and he was one of those actors. Did you ever, when you were young and into like a lot of fantasy books and stuff like that, in the early days of the internet, where like you'd jump on GeoCities sites to join fan communities for the books, and like you'd spend most of your time casting who should be playing which parts in the
Oh my
movies?
god. Yeah, I did a bit of that.
He was somebody that was almost always on a list for almost anything for
You know
me.
what? I would love to see him play. I mean, he's a little bit old for it now, but I would love to see him play James Bond. Can you imagine if you remember like the first Casino Royale that came out was with was it David Niven? I can't remember, but it was
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
farce, right? Like it was a parody of. And I think that Bruce Campbell as James Bond in a Austin Powers style James Bond movie would be absolutely mint.
I could see it.
Yeah, I think it would be absolutely like that. Would just, I mean, that would you'd be laughing the whole way. It's just he would show up on screen, and you'd be like, "All right, here come the laughs."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I didn't get into any of the newer like Ash versus the Evil Dead or the new Evil Dead stuff that's out now. Where he's been older. So the only things I've really seen him in is when he does the occasional cameo in a Sam Raimi thing,
Yeah.
like Multiverse of Madness, the Marvel movie there, the second Doctor Strange one. He was
See,
the. Did you see that movie?
I have.
So just the random dude selling pizza balls in that one alternate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes, I do. Yeah, I remember him showing up, and
yeah.
but I was casting back in my mind trying to remember like where was he in that movie? Yeah. No, he's yeah, he's the perfect everyman. He would be really good, and this would be like it would go right into his fan base and would probably pass muster on the workshopping to start it. You know the reboot of Night of the Living Dead or whatever it was where they were stuck in the mall.
Hmm.
He would be really good as that, or like in a character like in Last of Us,
Hmm. Hey, I'm
right?
going to throw back to the first episode. If they were to do a Firefly remake and it didn't involve
Oh,
Nathan Fillion, like if
yeah.
maybe Fillion was going to be a showrunner or something and he wasn't going to actually play Malcolm Reynolds, if this was going to be another crew, Bruce Campbell, like an older kind of grizzled, too
Yep.
old for this shit,
Yep.
he'd be almost perfect
I think he could
for that
really.
world and setting.
Yes, I think he would really play well into that because he has that exact perfect sort of I can be serious, but also like when the joke comes up, I'm in on it.
Hmm. Now, I don't know that I've seen, the one thing that Firefly had was a heart as well.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting. I don't know that I've seen a lot of that out of him. I'm sure he's quite capable of it. Like he's a super talented guy.
Yeah, he was very good at actually that kind of thing on Burn Notice. Like as
Yeah.
Sam Axe, he was the consummate good guy, you know, and it very much was in that kind of vein of like I'm too old for this shit and I don't have time for this shit, but you asked me for help, so here I am. I'm gonna bitch about it the whole time, but and he nailed that role. So
All
yeah,
right, well, starting a petition now then.
let's do it. Reboot Firefly. I'm in now. You know who else I would really love to see on Firefly is Allison Hannigan.
Yeah.
Not on the crew. I think she would be like Queen Bee at the top of the pyramid, sending them out on jobs or something. Or even better, if because do you remember the one episode where she got turned into a vampire? I can't remember if it was an alternate universe or something, but she was evil and bad, and she was just perfect. So she would be ideal as the sort of ongoing sort of big bad.
So, just to clarify, are we just doing Buffy in space?
Why not?
Okay.
Why? Yeah, I'd be down for that.
I mean, again, it's hard to talk about the guy nowadays, but
Hmm.
the Joss Whedon, early Joss Whedon kind of shit is what made Firefly what it is. That and the incredible casting.
You know what? I think it was probably more the incredible cast than anything else. So I mean, if you can
Oh yeah,
find
yeah, yeah.
if you can find the chemistry in the cast, I think that's much more.
But the writing was good,
It was
and they
good,
made some
sure.
really intelligent choices. And yes, the cast had to execute it really well, and they did. You know, the anyway, listen to episode 1. We don't need to get into it all again. Damn it.
Yeah, go back and listen to our entire back catalog. It should take you about 5 minutes if you fast forward through the boring parts.
uh,
So did we
so
cover that topic? I don't know
I
if
don't
we
even
did or
remember
not.
what the topic was, man. The weird video game selection, commitment,
I
anxiety, erectile dysfunction issue.
seriously, here's what you should do: is you should have someone else choose a game for you to play, and then you should play it.
Well, so you mentioned as a potential topic for the show, and then I asked you what games you wanted, and you didn't respond. Hey, we should play a game or a game that we've already played and review it.
All right.
So
Well,
let's do that for next episode. Let's pick a game right now.
all right. Well, give me 10 seconds because I have to load up Discord. How do I not have Discord loaded? Discord is always running on my computer. Because I sent you and Discord wants to update. I sent you a message last
You
week to
got
say,
me Gin the Drunkening. Like that was the response I got to, hey, do you have any games in mind?
oh yeah, I may have been somewhat inebriated during that conversation. Take no responsibility for my actions. No, I sent Fallout New Vegas,
Hmm. Now
which I
that's
have.
not a game that you can play in a week in review.
Oh, all right. Well, I wonder.
It
What
is a
about?
game that we should play, but
Yes. How about maybe we could do like sort of an ongoing thing because I don't think that we're probably going to be able to fill an entire show with a game review.
no. It'd just be
Oh,
a
pardon
main
me.
topic when we don't have anything.
Let's why don't we go back and do like the original Fallout, which I have not played. I've never finished
Mm.
it. And I haven't played, I'll bet you, in probably 20 years, 15 at least. And I actually have the Fallout CDs, I think, which I
So
borrowed from Kent and never returned. Sorry, Kent.
yeah, sorry, Kent. Um, so I know that I installed them at one point in time and tried to play them. I don't know that they ever stuck.
Well, I mean,
Let
now it.
me ask you the question just
Okay.
to see how this is going to go. Last year, I went back and tried to play Baldur's Gate 1,
Oh God, I just uninstalled it.
and it was
Oh God,
like
yeah.
self-imposed dental surgery.
Hmm. Well, I mean that might be the sum total of the review that we get to next week. Is yeah, I loaded it up, I took one look, I barfed, and then I went and jumped off my balcony. And if that's the case, then that's the case. I mean, but the other thing we can do is we can look at it like this is our actual job. Can you imagine trying to make a living doing this? Uh, I'd lose
Hmm.
some weight.
All right.
I'm open to other suggestions too.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
thinking.
I'm open to Fallout One. Again, it's a pretty big game if you want to do it justice. I'm not sure about compatibility. We might have to. Hell, we might even have to DOS box it.
Oh, maybe. I don't think Good Old Games has a copy, I think.
Yeah, that doesn't always mean it'll run on new stuff, though.
Fallout. It is in fact on GOG, and it's 75% off. It's $2.
Oh, I may just buy it then.
Yeah. I probably should, nah, I'll just do it. I hope I'm logged in as me.
Oh, you're buying it now?
I'm buying it now. Well, it's $2, man. Uh, okay, I'm gonna have to add a credit card, so I'll just put it on my wish list.
Yep. Riveting for the listeners.
Yes. Let me just type out my credit card. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and the secret code is Pentium.
Okay. So I have another game. We'll do two. We
Okay.
will try Fallout 1.
All right.
Uh I want you to download an emulator,
Oh God. Okay.
NES emulator. And we are both, because I know this is a game we've both played. We don't need to play it together, but let's honestly give 18 holes of Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf a
Oh, hey,
play.
is that? I actually have a Wii. Would that be on the Nintendo portion of that?
I don't know. Just play it on your PC, man.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it. Not necessarily right now, but I'll put it in the thing.
Yeah, just grab like Emulation Station or something. Then you're gonna have most of the emulators. And I've probably got a ROM kicking around. I owned the game at one point. This is absolutely legal. I totally dumped the ROM myself, and I am
Okay.
lending you the ROM and will not be playing the game while you're making use of said ROM. You are to return the ROM to me so that I can play the game and review it as well.
You want to know something funny? I'll bet you I can actually check out the like a Nintendo from my local library.
Yeah.
Our library is so cool. There's just so much to see and do. Check out your local library. Learn to read. It's
It has
worth it.
been forever since I've been in a local library.
It has changed. I'll tell you that. Remember the days and the tropes, and you've probably seen it. Like you don't see it in modern movies anymore, but you see it in old movies where like people walk into a library and go, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a long time," and somebody goes, "Shh." Libraries are not quiet anymore.
No,
Not even a little. Librarians is still awesome though. So support your local librarian.
there you go.
But
So,
yeah, and you should
Fallout
watch the.
1, Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf.
Okay, we'll give it a go. Speaking of librarians, you should check out the movie The Librarian with. Oh God, what is his name? He was in everything. You know, the guy with the face. He was on Scrubs. Was it Scrubs? He was on one of those doctor shows anyway, with the hospital, with all of the inappropriate things. His name will come to me any moment now.
Okay, so is this The Librarians?
That's the
With,
TV show,
okay.
which had some.
We, Quest for the Spear?
That was
The
the second
Librarian
one.
Quest for the Spear?
Yes, but that is the series. That's the second movie. They are
Okay.
cheesy. They are very very cheesy, but they are very much worth a watch.
Okay. The Librarian 3?
There's a Librarian 3.
Apparently.
Wow.
The Librarian 3, The Curse of the Judas Chalice.
Huh. Interesting. Anyway, the premise is the guy is a librarian, or he does he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's been like in graduate school for like 30 years or something, and his mom's pressuring him to get a job. So he gets a interview at the local library to become a librarian, and he gets the job. And it turns out he's actually the custodian of like Excalibur and various things like that in the basement, traveling all over the world to try and keep artifacts out of the hands of the evildoers. It's basically Indiana Jones with a healthy dose of cheese.
I'd honestly never heard of it, man.
It is underrated. It has a little bit of a cult following, but I don't think it ever made it big.
I will
So
check it out. Hey, do you want to get into some table talk?
sure, let's do that.
I'm going to actually intro the segment this time because I've stopped doing that.
Okay.
And I probably should for, a potential first time listener. Table Talk is a part of the show where we chat about things like Dungeons and Dragons, all things table talk. And today I have some questions for you.
Well, shoot.
So, your game is on hiatus for the summer, and the game that we play together is on hiatus for the summer. We talked
Yes.
about planning some one shots.
Yes.
Threw it out in my one shot channel, but we may have some other stuff going on the side. And I thought it would be worth talking about one shots. For those that don't know, a one shot traditionally is organized tabletop or Dungeons and Dragons game that's meant to be played in a single session. Those sessions often run 4 to 6 hours to get them in, but the idea is it's sort of a one and done thing. Uh, Most of the one shots I've been in or run have a habit of turning into multiple sessions,
Yeah.
but the ones that I've been organizing with that Lucky Sevens thing have all been comfortably 4 hours, and they've been fun. So my question is, what do you think makes a good one shot?
A lot of it is about the players. And I think it doesn't get enough sort of traction that the game master, dungeon master, is a player too. So it's one shots are not something that I've had much success with a new group, right?
Mm-hmm,
Like when you start up and you're like, okay, we've never played together before. One shots generally don't come off well. Mostly because a lot for me, what makes a one shot really good is the jokes that come out of it that you're going to be telling for the next 20 years,
mm-hmm,
right? The stories where you go, hey, you remember that time? Um, the other thing that I think makes a really good one shot is that uh, you can play characters in a one shot that you can't play in a campaign because they're annoying as shit. Like
mm-hmm.
they're like you can have a one joke character. Like here's the joke,
Yep.
right? And it lasts for 4 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, the only reason it's good though is because at the end of 4 hours, we're done with this joke.
Yeah, you don't get to the point where you piss everybody off. So when everybody's like, hey, you remember the time you did that thing for 20 years? You're looking back on it fondly. It's not,
Yes,
oh, this asshole that it was in my main campaign. He just, yeah.
forever.
And I would
Yeah.
argue that in a one shot, you really should encourage that. That's one of the things that I tried to do with that Lucky Sevens group was like, I don't I don't want a lot of backstory for these characters. Lean on the tropes. This is the one time when it is appropriate to play Legolas, if that's what you want to
I'm
do,
Batman.
or Batman, or whatever. Because they're disposable, they won't wear out their welcome, and those things that are legitimately funny in small doses have just enough breathing room to work in a one shot.
Yep.
Um, One of the things that I've been trying to do with one shots, and I don't know um, if I've been able to do it successfully, especially with this Lucky Seven stuff, is like there shouldn't be a lot of story. I don't think it
No.
should be an easy setup so that when you start the one shot, you're jumping right into it. You're playing, you
John
know?
Wick. John Wick
Yeah.
is an ideal one shot.
Yes. I don't think unless the one shot is designed to be, and this is the other great thing about one shots, like you can do a one shot that is just like, hey, we're doing a spy movie. Like this is espionage and sneaky stabby stabby kind of shit. Limited combat,
Yeah.
or we're doing a heist,
Yep.
or you can have something that is very complicated mechanically but simple from a story perspective. Like, hey, everybody's at the table, here's the intro. And I don't know, you didn't actually play in any of those Lucky Sevens one shots. I
No.
did.
No.
But my basic setup, what I wanted to lean on was the Expendables movies,
Yep.
right? Like, here's these sort of worn out, kind of like tropey 80s action heroes. They start the movie with an action scene, then just the absolute smallest bit of setup plot happens, and then like there's more action or more silliness or more, like something that encourages the one-liners, the
Yep.
stuff that again would be annoying in a regular campaign. And the first one shots I did, I kind of did a few over a weekend. It was basically like the setup was you're part of this team, you
Yes.
know, that like your job is to basically do the impossible. And I set it up Lucky Sevens.
Dun,
The
dun,
characters
dun,
are,
dun,
yeah,
dun.
the characters are forever level 7. That's kind of my sweet spot. Where it's easy enough to sort of pick up a character for a one shot without having to worry about 20 levels worth of character mechanics and progression and whatnot.
But you still
But
have
you've
some cool shit to do.
yeah, you've got a decent tool belt. Um, and it's easy to, like throw stuff at you that could be a challenge if challenge is what you're going for. But the essential setup was kind of like you would see at the beginning of an Expendables movie where they're flying into somewhere on their shitty little plane. You're on an airship and you basically skydive into whatever the situation is. Here's the basic mission brief, you know. Here's a like potion of feather falling and jump and then get into it, right? But, and I would what little setup for the story I would do in advance, just kind of like here's a mission brief, like you're brought in, here's the situation, people have gone missing here, or in this case, this outpost is just everybody that goes in never comes out again.
So
you
go
know
in.
we've sent another team in and they didn't report back, so it's up to you. Here's your parachute, or in this case potion. Jump, figure it out. And
Yeah.
like don't die because we can't come down and get you.
Yes. Yes. Your mission, and you will accept it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about one shots is I think they need to be like when you're DMing a campaign, something that I've been trying to be more cognizant of is like not providing a story but providing a framework and let the story happen within it.
Yeah.
And let the story kind of come out of the player's decisions. In a one shot, I think for it to not get bogged down, you almost need to take the opposite approach. Like here's some rails, like
Yep.
mechanically speaking, you're in a hallway and you've got one direction to go.
Yes.
you
It's
know
bumper bowling.
yeah. um so the other question then, tacked on to the end of this, is do you have any interesting ideas that you would like to explore for a one shot, be it interesting settings, interesting game mechanics, or
I did actually sort of put this one out there last week, and I I may have bitten off a little more than I can chew, but I'd kind of like to run a cyberpunk adventure. Because I enjoy that setting, but I think it might tie in a little too closely with all of the things that I have been thinking about our dystopian presence, as opposed to a dystopian future.
so so this reminds me of something I wanted to mention. So I'll let you keep going, but I want to put this bug in your ear first. What do you think about new systems? Like if you've got people that are playing D&D all year
Mhm.
and they're taking a break and you're trying to fill time for one shots, how do you feel about trying to throw a new system in there, particularly one that's that's complex, like Cyberpunk Red or something like that, because it's
It depends on the group. Like for you and I think it's fine, right?
yeah.
Because well, I don't know if it's fine. It means that we'll probably lose some sleep because it'll be like,
Hmm.
ooh, what if I did this? And I'd like to read that, and I'll read all the books and all of the things, and then I'll go on Reddit and figure out what they've got. For your average casual player, I think it makes much more sense to just stick with the mechanics that you're familiar with.
Hmm.
Like reframe things if you need to make them fit, but just like
Hmm.
like his the 5e system will work for anything. And I see a lot of just sort of descriptions from people about like, oh, this power and that unbalanced and this thing and that thing. You know what? Like it's literally just an excuse to roll dice. Like
Yep.
we went camping one time and we did um a friend who I mean I've kind of lost touch with. She did a sort of zombie. We didn't have any dice. We had no papers. We had no pencils, no nothing. It was literally just here's a situation that happens. What do you do? And then she just sort of resolved it. And it was a like there wasn't really any combat as
Hmm.
such. It was really just a sort of cooperative storytelling, which is like it was really a lot of fun,
Hmm.
right? Like we had a couple of wobbly pops and we sat around the campfire, and she said like basically the start was all right, you're driving downtown in Belleville, um, and like everyone around you drops dead, and then they rise up and do the zombie thing. What do you do, right? Like what do you do? And it just went from there. Like everybody's like, okay, well, we should do this, and like we had conversations about like what should we do if there's a zombie uprising, which is a very real possibility because I don't know about you, but I've seen mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could invade your brain and turn you into a zombie.
Now you took a stab at it. Wasn't I don't think it was meant to be a one shot. It was meant to be sort of a maybe a small like mini campaign of an interesting setup like that, where we were playing ourselves
Yes.
in the town where you live.
Hmm.
And was there any setup before dragons attacked and ate you?
No, we were sitting. No, well, it's a little tiny bit. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was. We
just
were we were sitting in my apartment playing Dungeons and Dragons when
yeah,
suddenly you hear like thunder outside, and then here's a picture of literally
yeah.
the view outside my window with like flames superimposed on it. And then it was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? The building's on fire. We have to get out. And we got out. And as soon as we went out the front door, because I'm DMing the thing, so I'm not gonna put my character in there, I get eaten by a dragon. And then you guys got to go on from there. I think we did some rudimentary dice rolling, but it was basically just
Yeah,
flip
you
a
had a
coin.
super simple system. I think, oh, man, I can't remember. I think it was like a three stat system or something, where it's basically
Physical,
this.
mental, social.
Yeah, yeah. This one, this one's a D8, this one's a D6, this one's a whatever the other one was, and
Yeah.
that was your character build.
Yeah.
That
And
was fun.
it's simplifying the system, like super, super simple.
Hmm.
It works really well because you don't. It depends though. Like it depends on what kind of a game you want to play. Because like
Oh
you
yeah.
can play super crunchy systems and they're fun too. Because then you do. It's all about the math of the system and not
Hmm.
about how well I'm. But
But in the context of a one shot, if you're going to stray away from the system you're regularly playing, I think that's the way to do it, right? Like, this is
it's
a
got to be
system that
simple.
I can teach you in 30 seconds so that we can start playing the game because it's a one shot.
Yes. Or you have to commit to, yeah, it's a one shot, but we're going to stretch it over 2 days.
Hmm. Like Cyberpunk, for instance, like if you're interested in running a game in a Cyberpunk system, I'm not sure that a one shot does that justice, right?
No,
A,
I
maybe
don't.
it doesn't lend itself well to learning the system, but B, the material lends itself well to, like, there's just a little bit more meat there. It's the
Yeah.
kind of thing where it's like 4 hours isn't enough. Maybe you wouldn't want to deal with, it's like running Curse of Strahd, right? Where it's like, okay, spending a year in Barovia, a bit of a slog just tonally, and Cyberpunk might have the same sort of pitfalls, but like a 4 or 6 session mini campaign.
Yeah.
I'm in, man. Sign me up if you're running one of those.
I'll have to look at the system. I haven't even looked at the system. I don't know what it's like, but I mean, we could very much do that kind of a thing with like D20 Modern or just use 5e and go, all right, we're gonna cross off all of
Mhm.
the skills on the list and fill in the
I
ones
you
from
know what I think for
Cyberpunk.
like a mini campaign, like a 4 or 6 like session thing, like it's worth learning a new system then. Like you
Yeah.
can take the time. This is a commitment. You can do a little bit of reading in advance as players. Hey, if you're joining this
Y-
game,
Here's your homework.
here's your homework, and I think that's fine. I try and avoid most of that for a one shot, but
Yeah, no, for a one shot, yeah,
yeah.
it very much has to be. You got to hit the ground running because you literally are
Mhm.
jumping out of a plane. I really like and I know this is, oh my god, this is so stereotyped and like super. I don't even know what the word is, but I really like the idea that you wake up in a cell. You don't know how you got here, and there's six of you in the same cell. You don't have any stuff. You're dressed in
Mhm.
rags. The door's locked. What do you do? It's a great
Limited
way because
backstory for the character.
yeah, you just like you. It's ideal because you don't remember who you are, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so you sort of describe yourself to your companions around the table, and everybody gets to know themselves and their party at the same time. And you don't have to do because one of the problems with I've always had with campaigns is like, how do you know each other? And I have sort of taken the route most of the time of saying, like we're starting at level 4. You've been adventuring together for a while. You know each other. Because like I've done the sort of, you all meet at the inn and this something and what do you do? And I go pick a fight with somebody and that's how you meet or something. And it's just like, okay, it's the origin story problem all over again.
Hmm.
It's like we've been there and done that. Like we've done this before. If you're a new player, then introducing them in such a way that that's how they get introduced to the group, that makes sense. When it's like, here we are, people who have been playing the game now for, 3 or 4 years. Do we really want to do introductions again? Not really. I don't anyway. The same way I don't want to keep track of money, right? Like I don't want uh, Dungeons and Dragons to be an accounting exercise. Well, I bought 3 pitons, which are 3 silver each, which means I deduct from there and carry over to here. But you know what? There's some amortization on my backpack, so
Yeah.
that comes out over here. And then like why do I want to? I play a fantasy game and do my taxes at the same
Hey,
time.
according to Gary Gygax, that is the game.
It is. It is. I mean, God bless Gary for giving us the game, but I'm very glad that it evolved from there.
Yeah, and all of my games are basically the same with regards to money. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You got a recurring income. That's part of why I set this sort of job thing up.
Yeah.
You have enough money to do most of what you want to do.
If you
All
want to
I
buy,
want to think about is like, hey, can I do this crazy, buy this expensive thing? Like, is it plausible or not that you have that much money? All right, yeah, you can do it.
yeah. Or you find it, but it's going to take 6 weeks or something for them to build it, or it's just not available. They have to order it in.
Yeah.
And Amazon is like an actual river in this world. They have to paddle it a good long distance before it gets to you.
So one of the things that I would like to achieve with one shots, and it's something that I struggle to work into the games that I'm playing regularly, is those sort of, and I'm going to use the term epic in like quotation marks,
Finger quotes.
but those sort of epic, cinematic would be a better term.
Yeah.
Those cinematic encounters, and they don't always need to be combat encounters, but those things that are difficult to just pull out of your ass, especially if you're playing remotely using a virtual tabletop uh,
Yeah.
type thing. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. A couple of examples. Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, minecart scene, or something
Yeah.
similar to that, right? Where you've got
Yeah.
like mine carts on rails that are parallel and people are being pulled back and forth and you've got these obstacles. The kinds of things where like you're encouraging the use of other D&D mechanics and stats and different types of roles. It
Skill
isn't about
challenges.
it isn't necessarily about bashing things, but it also encourages you to get really creative, right? Like, here's a situation, you guys as players are going to come up with solutions to it that I would never have thought of. So there's no point trying to script the epic moment, but create that sort of more
The-
complicated, like, physical space that's a little bit more dynamic,
Yeah.
rather than a static map and a VTT and, oh, well, there's, a couple of different levels here, elevation here, stuff like that. Something that just like that I can move stuff around, or like, ship to ship combat in the air. Going back to my Lucky Sevens thing, talking about the airship and skydiving in, I think the next one shot I want to run with them is like this dynamic, just sort of air sequence. The basic setup for it, and this may be minor spoilers. I haven't actually figured any of this out yet, but I like the idea of like, okay, you've done this like skydiving thing a couple of times, but now you're having to skydive through a sky that's filled with flying beasts that all want to eat you. And it's,
Oh,
you want to like get down, and I kind of envision this combat encounter that's happening just as you're falling. You attract some of these flying creatures, or maybe you land on some of them and try and take control of them, or whatever it is you want to do.
I
But
take my ponytail and I plug it into the flying creature, but that's
yeah,
also how we have sex.
yes,
Wait,
exactly
wait,
that.
this
Yeah.
this feels weird.
No, just this sort of dynamic situation where like you don't have the XY mobility so much because you're falling straight down, and with the length of turns, if you're saying you're falling 15,000 feet, like that's going to last the length of a good sort of combat encounter. But having to think about just not hitting stuff as you're falling down, or stuff's just kind of appearing underneath you, things are trying to like swoop down and eat you as you're going, and you can't use your parachute or your potion until you get to the bottom, because if you use it in advance, you're a
You're
carrot
floating.
dangling in front of all of these things, right? Like you're
Yep.
just easy food.
It would be interesting too to do something like uh, the scene in Firefly where they're like heading for the planet. I think it was in the movie. You know the one I mean? Where they're going through all of the shit. Maybe it was in Star Wars. I don't know. It's a trope in these sort of space movies, though, that like we have to get to the planet, but there's combat going on, so we have to dodge through all of the sort of ship to ship combat. That would be an interesting thing to have to
Well,
fall
and
through
that's
as well.
essentially what this is, right?
Yeah,
But instead of a ship, you're a fleshy body falling at terminal velocity through wings and
everything.
teeth and whatever, right? To
And
get to
then
the bottom, to basically land in like, the anus of something that's spawning these creatures, you know,
it's
so that
my
you can
ass.
go in
There's
and
time for lubrication.
right. Yeah. Like that's kind of the framework for, I think, what I've got, I'd like to do for my next one shot in that Lucky Sevens environments. Two encounter session. The
Yep.
aerial scene, and then what happens once you penetrate.
Pun intended.
Yeah, the belly of the beast, literally.
Yes.
This,
Oh,
whether it's an ancient dragon or some sort of shadow beast that's spawning stuff, but it's like buried underground, right? And it's just kind of like spitting all these creatures up. And like you got to
oh my.
stop that from happening, but you've got all of these
Oh.
creatures flying around that you got to get through first.
Oh my god, that's where Slurm comes from. Gross.
Right. Yeah, but that's a great thing about that setup. Like literally the belly of the beast, or inside the demon's ass, or whatever, is it can get silly.
Yes. Yes. That's a very, very nice thing about one shots is that you can get silly and it works.
You should get silly in
Yeah.
most cases.
It's an excuse to do something ridiculous. Like all of the sort of movie tropes and silly jokes and things where it's like, like in a campaign, you'd be like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Because you're probably going to die." Whereas in a one shot, it's like, "Yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit of latitude because this might be funny."
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, man. I'd actually like to get in on that next Lucky Sevens thing.
Yeah, I put a poll out Hey, if anybody's listening and wants to do a D&D one shot, hit us up by email at podbag@nerdingundertheinfluence.com. Maybe we can find some room for you.
There you go.
Looking at the last couple weeks of July, um, man, I got to look at the poll. It looked like Sorry, I know, riveting.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it's even better if you're watching the video.
yeah, weekend afternoons, sometime in the last half of July, seems to be the favorite right now. As with the last sessions I've done, I'll probably like plan a few sessions, because I don't like to run big groups. Like 4 or 5 is kind of my sweet spot,
Yeah.
um, especially for a one shot where you want it to be kind of snappy.
Yes.
Um, I don't want to how people do like 8 at a table. I just don't know.
You have to have 8 very well-behaved people, and I don't know that I've ever met 8 well-behaved people in my life, ever.
All right, we're getting into the season now.
Is there a guitar somewhere near your desk?
I've got one in a case over there.
Oh,
My acoustics are downstairs right now because I took them to that staff event that we had last week. But I do have my
I could have
electric here.
sworn that I heard the reverberation of a guitar when you opened that on your desk.
Oh no, I'm actually sitting on a guitar amplifier right now, though.
Oh,
Doesn't
okay.
have. Oh, it's got a built-in reverb, so spring reverb.
Oh,
Maybe that's what
maybe
you
that
heard.
was it. Could be. You really
The
should get a chair.
Oh, I do have a chair. The problem is, like, I'm a big guy and it squeaks. So
Ah,
when I'm recording, I don't want it to be snap snap.
I
I'm trying
suggest
to
that.
be semi-professional here.
Mission accomplished. You got to get yourself a gaming chair that's made out of like rolled steel. This chair weighs like 110 pounds.
So the other
Uh,
thing I want to do for a one shot, and I've never been able to pull it off yet, or figure even out how to pull it off properly, is a good heist.
Heists are tough. They really are, because if you look at like what makes a good heist movie is it's snappy and it moves,
Hmm.
right? And it's tough to do that improv style.
It is.
Like if you handed everybody a script, I'll bet you we could do it. Like we could do like a radio play that was like a heist, but like an actual role playing game,
I think you could pull it off. Like, I mean, you have to accept that as a dungeon master, like, the objective is for them to succeed,
yes.
right?
Well, it's no
So,
fun if they fail.
right, like, and you're probably going to have to bend over a few times and really work hard as a DM for them to succeed. I think urgency would be important. Like, in game, you've got 20 minutes as a group to plan this, and then it's go time.
Yes.
Come up with your 5 best ideas. Here's the lay of the land. And then as they execute those ideas, I mean, the ideas should sort of work, I think, but you can add layers of complication for bad rolls and things like that.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of the other thing is that like as soon as you introduce any kind of a random element, you end up with a little bit of pull the lever and hope it comes up 3 bars,
Hmm.
right? Unless you get your thumb on the scale. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, with the right group, it can be done, but it's tough to
Hmm.
pull off.
What I like about a heist is everybody has a job to do, and you get to pick what's your thing going to be.
I
Your thing might be
smash.
like, yeah, you might be, oh, I'm going to deal with these guards downstairs. Somebody else might be like, well, I'm going to woo the host and distract them, and do some seducing and diplomatic stuff or whatever. I'm gonna talk my way through this, and the other one can do some magic shit or whatever. Like, the idea that it forces players to identify something that is appropriate for their character
Yep.
and give them their time in the spotlight to do it.
Yes.
And it's not going to go down as planned. I can guarantee you're going to have to
Oh,
think on your feet. It wouldn't
Ever.
be fun if you didn't have to, but I one of these days I'm going to do it. I agree. You're going to have to find the right players. The kind of players that
Improv well.
improv well. And I mean, there's certain, this isn't a gripe against players. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, you're awesome in my book, or tabletop of any kind. You are A1. So this isn't a complaint. But there are players that are more passive, right? Like they look to maybe the one player around the table or character in the party to assume that quasi leadership role,
Yes.
and they complement that well sometimes, but like when put in a situation where they need to lead,
They don't know what to do.
they as players either feel uncomfortable or don't know how to play their character in that situation. And what appeals to me about a heist is it forces players for the most part to do that, right? Like, you need to contribute to this
Hmm.
anyway. One day we're gonna have to like plan a one shot just like on the show.
Hmm.
Like, this is what we're doing, and then run it.
Oh, that'd be neat. We'd probably need a guest or two.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we have players, and we could, hey, if anybody's listening and you want to get in on it, let us know. But the exercise for us of like trying to plan a one shot in a 2 hour episode and then
And then run it.
run it, maybe not on the episode, we'll record it separately or something, but what
Well, this
material we came up with, like, that's what we got to go with.
that kind of plays into a thing that, and I don't know if anyone has done this. This may have happened at a convention. I've never been. I've never been to a convention.
Neither have I.
Uh, but like the idea of like as the dungeon master, game master, whatever, and as the players, you literally sit down at the table, and as the GM, you're handed, here are some, I don't know, either like Dwarven Forge sort of 3D model type things, or here are some combat maps. Here is a summary of your players. Here is a summary of the problem. Here are three things that you have to incorporate. Go. Right. And the
Hmm.
players are handed their characters. Here's your character. Here's your motivation.
Yeah.
Go.
So nobody's got preparation. It's strictly an exercise in improv.
Yep.
Very,
My
very minimal guideposts.
Yep. You do you, and then it would have to be like, I was thinking, because I was kind of riffing on the idea of the Iron Chef, so I would call it the Iron Dungeon. And like there would be judges for like who was the best player, how did the DM do, and then you'd have like different DMs and different sets of players, and it would be kind of like a random draft, and then who was the best GM and who were the best players and which game was best, right? And you'd have, I don't know, some kind of wacky scoring system where you get like points for this and points for that and points for the other thing, and then whoever has the most points at the end, wins a chocolate cupcake.
That sounds like the kind of thing I'd be willing to rent a hall for and rent some camera equipment.
Yeah, I mean, it would
I
be a
mean,
ton of fun.
realistically, we'd probably have to do it online, but
Yeah,
hey, that's a hell of an idea.
yeah. I mean,
Spin-off show. I mean,
yeah.
we're
There you
six
go.
episodes into this, and we're pivoting.
the
We're
oh,
we're we're a D&D competition show now, people.
yeah. Even better. It's a drinking game, right? The drunken dungeon. Every time that you do something that gets disapproval from one of the judges, you have to take a shot. uh, it would get very drunk out very fast.
I think we would need to have like a big gong,
Oh
right?
my.
And every time you see anything, like, there's you establish some taboos up
Hmm.
front. Like, these are the things that you don't do, and it can be like, call out some of the stuff that every party falls victim of, right? Like, these are the traps that you fall into. And
Every
every
time you
time you
try and
hear
tame a pet, gong.
gong, everybody has to drink.
Oh, it would get drunk out fast. Have you ever seen? There's a TV show on the BBC called Quite Interesting, QI for short.
I think I've
That
heard of
was.
it, but I haven't seen it.
I think I've mentioned it before. It was originally hosted by Gordon. Oh God, what is his name? Uh Smart British dude. I'm gonna have to look it up now. But it is now hosted by Sandy Toksvig because he retired from the show.
Oh,
It
was that
is
the one that
now
like Stephen Fry was involved in?
Stephen Fry. That's the name I was
Okay,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah, Stephen Fry was the host, and the premise of the show is that like you don't get points for having the right answer because the questions are impossible. You get points for being interesting, and there's a buzzer that goes off if you say the obvious thing. Right? And it's the same kind of premise where like if like what's the largest animal or what's the longest animal in the world? What's the longest animal in the world?
I don't know.
Really? The typical answer is the blue whale, which is wrong. It's actually a jellyfish because it's
Hmm.
like 2.5 miles long or something. By the time you,
Yeah,
how many moons does the?
see, I was thinking of trying to turn it into like a sloth situation, right? Like long
Oh,
being a measure of time rather than distance.
oh, well,
You know,
turtle
12
then.
parsecs.
The worm is spice.
Did I ever tell you about my? I know this is a tangent episode.
Yep.
I had an idea, and it's
Uh
still a
oh.
viable business idea. I think. I just
Well, not now because you're giving it away.
no. I mean, it would require some work. If you want to steal the idea, fine. One of the things I've learned in sort of my world is there's a whole bunch of people that do really, really well just by maintaining like a network of people, a network of
Hmm.
experts that like maybe once a year they can pull on, for whatever. So I had, this is going back to like 2009, I put together sort of a small business case for it of creating what would essentially be just like a general fact checking agency. You're writing a screenplay, you're doing a TV show, you're writing a book, you're anything, right? Musical
Hmm.
theater. And you want to hire somebody at a reasonable ish price to just give it a once over so that, you avoid the things that turn into memes.
It's Morbin time.
Yeah, but like you just portrayal of computers, portrayal, and everybody
Oh
would
yeah.
understand, hey, this still needs to be entertaining. So what minor adjustments can we make? Just like a general consulting firm, basically.
Yeah.
But the name was going to be 12 Parsecs.
Oh
The
yeah.
classic example.
Yeah. It's the ship that made the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs. Which actually does makes like they twisted it really well in the
They worked
expanded
really
universe.
well. They worked really, really hard. Like they created a whole fucking movie in Solo just to justify that line. You know, oh, you're going to
Um
try and get out of this hellhole in a straight line instead of taking the long way? You're crazy. Okay,
that
we
that
get it.
that was not invented in Solo. That was invented in one of the books
Oh,
back
I'm sure it
in
was.
like 1980 something.
The point is everybody knows that that was something that was written into a script without much thought. It's
Hmm.
a spacey sounding word,
Yeah. Well, I
and
mean, do you remember there was a thing that was going around Usenet, Google Groups, IRC, the evil overlord list? Things that I will not do or things that I will do if I ever become an evil overlord. It's like I will give my
oh,
minions helmets where I can see their faces so the heroes can't disguise themselves as my guards to get in. I will run all of my plans past a 10-year-old child, and if they can spot the holes, I won't do it. Because the evil overlord always has a plan that's just super easily foilable. And like it makes sense in the context of a movie. It has to be. Like the heroes have to win. That's the point of the movie.
mhm.
But at the same time, can you make it a little less obvious, please? Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I brought up the two idiots, one keyboard scene from NCIS a few episodes ago.
Oh my god,
Like,
yeah.
there's a prime example of, look, it's TV. I know you don't have a lot of time for like proper consultation. Like, throw a screenplay at somebody who can just call on some experts, turn it over in 3 days with some scribbles in the margins. Hey, maybe,
Two people can't type faster.
yeah, maybe just like do it this way instead,
You know what? Like, here's the thing too. When they portray hacking of any kind on TV or in the movies, it's always somebody smashing a keyboard.
Oh
Ah,
yeah, windows
like,
popping up faster than you can read them.
oh my god, it should literally be like Mission Impossible actually did it pretty well. Or and here is the ultimate in irony is that Independence Day did it perfectly. All of the hacking happens off screen,
Mhm.
and what you get for a visual is uploading virus and a percentage bar.
Well, and here's the funniest thing: the movie that started off doing it really well is the movie you would not expect to do it because it is so over the top in a great way. Hackers. But that
Yeah,
scene where at the beginning of the movie he's calling into the TV station and doing some social engineering, can you read me the number off the back of that modem? Mr. Kawasaki wants this done by blah blah blah. And then once he gets it, like, I mean, he's then you wait, right? You just do your thing.
yeah,
That was
just wait.
great. I know
Office
that,
Space did it really well too.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. And I mean, the real hacking, as we've said before, isn't overly entertaining, right? Like it's
Oh, it's boring as shit.
that, oh, I finally, after 2 weeks of automated probing, got access to what it was that, I found a hole. Now I'm going to upload virus, like you said, or, whatever it is that
Yep.
you're doing. And now I'm going to go get a drink and wait for another 2 weeks till it does its thing.
I'm hacking the encryption. I should have it for you in 3.5 minutes. No, you won't. You'll have it in 5.6 years. And by the time that you're finished actually hacking the encryption on the thing that you need to hack the encryption on, computing power will have gone so far beyond where we are now that you could just wait and do it then.
Did we talk about the scene in Swordfish?
The one where it's all numbers, but his fingers never leave the home row.
Yeah, where he's got a gun to his head, a woman between his legs, and 1 minute
Yeah,
to, I forget what it was they had him breaking into,
hi, it's so stupid.
Pentagon or some bullshit.
I don't know.
Just
The
sweating and mashing
pentagraph.
keys as fast as he can.
Yeah, the faster that you mash keys, the faster you hack.
Uh, do you
Yeah.
remember? This is sort of somewhat related. The what was it called? Just a little. It was like a web utility. I mean, there was like
Oh,
downloadable applications for it where like it looked like you were programming if you just mashed keys. If you wanted to like look busy while somebody was walking past your desk,
no, I have never seen
it
that.
just code started just like building itself on your screen, and all you're just doing is mashing keys. Every time you hit a key, certain number of
It.
characters would pop up, and it just I can't remember what it was called now.
Do you remember the Try to Hack website? There was that went around for a while, and it was some of it was super easy. Like it started off with like you view the source of the page, and it gives you the password for sort of the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point you have to like reverse compile a little basic program, and yeah, that was a load of fun. I don't think that I ever got very far with it, but I did. I remember working with somebody on it,
That
and
stuff
we
I
got
find so interesting too. Like and I know some of it gets crazy, like the Cicada 3301 stuff. Do you remember when that
no.
was going around? It got some pretty big buzz because it was like so mysterious. And if Let Me Know, I think, is the YouTube channel that has a really good, just sort of like a half hour kind of breakdown of Cicada 3301. If you haven't looked into it, check it out because it's kind of cool. I mean, it's basically the same thing, like just a scavenger hunt for smart people. It's not
Ooh,
all about hacking. Like, sometimes you started off like looking at the meta on a particular image that had been uploaded to something, and then it just spiraled into more
Cicada
complicated. But
33. You said.
3301, yeah.
I will make a note, as otherwise I'll forget. Because I've had 2 drinks,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
and
not,
I'm
even as a longtime developer, I'm not talented enough or know enough for that kind of shit. Like that's way out of my wheelhouse. But I find that interesting, not just from like the technology perspective, but like the social experiment angle of that stuff
yeah.
really intrigues me. I wish I was clever enough to come up with stuff like that, you know?
It's tough to make puzzles for people and also include the solution without it being either far too obvious or far too hard. Like finding
Hmm.
the sweet spot where it's solvable but it's tough.
Hmm.
It's real talent. I don't have it either.
Yeah, and even if it's not puzzles, like just the creating of a mystery stuff. I think I had a conversation with you about a almost an art project thing that I wanted to do. It was inspired by a bunch of stuff like this. And the one that really got me thinking about like people engaging with it was man, what's it called? The TLDR was it was a YouTube channel that popped up. I'm trying to think of the name of it right now, and I can't. It had a goofy name. It just had like colored boxes and lines would appear and some beeps and blips and stuff like that. And it had that sort of like old school numbers station style appeal. People trying to figure out what is this? Is this, coded messages? The TLDR was it was basically a channel that YouTube themselves had set up to test like video compression shit on.
Yep.
So it wasn't special, but like they knew that people were in on it, so they let it go for a while, and then they added some videos to the channel that just made it look more suspicious. And it turned into, and like some of those channels, just like bloops and boxes and colors and whatnot on the screen, have hundreds of thousands, and I think in some cases multi millions of views.
Well, it's popular stuff. If you've never watched Gravity Falls, if you avoid spoilers on the internet, there's codes all over the place in the cartoon, and some of it is very very good. Some of it's super simple, right? It starts off with like there's some clues and some super simple codes. Um, but if you haven't watched the cartoon, I highly recommend you do it. It is really really good. It's 2 seasons, and then it's done, and it's just like it finishes. It has an ending, and it's so many times like TV shows do that sort of cliffhanger at the end of every episode thing, and you just like, oh my, another cliffhanger, really? This one gives you a sort of a mystery at the end of most of the episodes where you're like, I want to know what happens next, but I'm also not, like I like this episode had an ending.
Hmm.
It's not I we left it open because it's a cliffhanger. It's just the mystery continues or deepens or expands.
WebDriver Torso. That is the name of the YouTube channel for
Web
anybody that's
driver.
interested in following it up. WebDriver Torso.
I will also make a note so I can go and look at it. I do remember you talking about it.
Yeah. All right. I have exactly one proposed pod bag topic. So I'm going to roll that bad boy.
All right.
You've got mail.
We like to wind down the show with questions from the audience or occasionally our AI overlords. This time, like usual, we've got a question from Ian. If you'd like to submit your question, hit us up by email, podbag@nerdingundertheinfluence.com. Our buddy Ian in California asks, Blue Sky Thinking. You've just received $5 million from a long lost uncle that passed away. What do you do in the short term, days, and in the long term, years, with this new opportunity?
Well, question number one, because now that Ian is in California, is that $5 million American, in which case, woohoo, or $5 million Canadian, in which case, well, I'd buy a bag of milk.
We'll assume 5 million Canadian.
I don't know. Like for me, I think like short term. First of all, if it's gonna hit the news, I'd disappear because people come out of the woodwork once they figure out that you've got money.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's not like you're winning the lottery here. It's an inheritance. So people probably aren't going to know.
Well, in that case, I mean, I'd pay off my house and retire. That's my short term because nobody ever wanted to work, and I don't either.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a bit of a boring answer. So I'm
yeah,
gonna like build off this because my answer is
Oh, what?
basically the same.
Well, hang
So
on a minute. You know what I'd do if I had that kind of money? Two girls at the same time.
always wanted to do that. What kind of chicks are gonna double down on a dude like me?
Yeah.
Uh, I haven't watched Office Space in years. I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Me either. I still quote it on the daily.
So, $5 million. I mean, $1 million isn't what it used to be. Obviously, right? Like, $1 million used to be you're rich, and now it's like, hey, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, you can buy a house for $1 million if you're, smart.
A small house, as long as you're not in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver,
Anywhere with a
Victoria.
population over 150,000 or near
Yeah.
water. So,
Yeah.
Canada, basically.
Small town, as long as you don't mind falling down
Yeah.
or like well water.
So, short term, I would lock 4 out of the 5 million away. Like, I need to get my hands off of it. Need to get my wife's hands off of it. It's got to go somewhere safe, like where it's not going to turn into 3 million in 2 weeks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd take that 1 million and it's like, okay, we buy our house, cash, paid for. We
Yep.
don't have to worry about that living expense for the rest of our lives. Pay off all our debt. Like, these are the sort of boring answers.
Yep.
My assumption, and I'd have to run the numbers, and this would be sort of the next thing after the short term stuff, would be, how do I live the rest of my life off that $4 million? Like, is the interest in a, low risk sort of savings environment enough that if I don't have to pay a mortgage for the rest of my life, and I live in Canada, so most of my health care is dealt with, can I live off the interest of $4
Yes.
million, my wife and I? I think the answer is probably yes. Now, it's not going to be
Absolutely yes.
extravagant living, right? But
Well, it's surprising. I have run these numbers recently because we're at work. We're looking at an actual pension plan.
mhm.
And I was sort of doing a compare and contrast before I vote on it. And so I was looking at, and again, this is like super boring shit. Oh my God, this is like accountant level math. So I was looking at like how much money am I going to have? Because I'm very lucky that my employer actually kicks in a fair good matching sort of saving plan. So by the time that I retire at 65, I'm going to have roughly a $500,000 in my retirement savings plan.
Must be
So
nice.
I've been very lucky, very lucky, because I mean I started off with basically I'm going to work until I die, and now I'm looking at it and going I might be able to actually retire at 65. Like I'm going to have to be careful,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm not going to have a lot of money, but if you have a $500,000 and you buy a lifetime income, I forget exactly what it's called because it's not a lira, it's the other thing, but it's basically a lifetime annuity.
Mhm.
It works out to like $35,000 or $40,000 a year. Now that's for a $500,000. So $4 million for a lifetime annuity, like you're looking at like 150, 200 grand income.
Okay, so let's use that number then. And I'm going to use my sort of spend $1 million on what you want to sort of get out of your life and use the balance to get through the rest of your life.
Hmm.
You have a house that's completely paid for. You have recurring income that doesn't require that you work your job for it. You're retired at the age you are now. Let's say that it's 150 or $200,000 a year
Which is nice.
when you're not having to pay a mortgage, like when that
That's
significant
good
part of
income.
your
Yeah.
your expenses, like that's comfortable. We've gotten to that point. The boring stuff's over. How are you going to spend your retirement now that you don't need to worry about that kind of money?
Well, here's the thing: is like if $4 million is enough, I think, because I've been toying with this idea in my brain because I mean I design things for a living, like actual physical things. And I've been thinking about the mega buildings from Cyberpunk. right? And as much as that's like a dystopian level of thing, if you were to design something like that and like just do a continuous pour concrete building with a sort of a hollow in the middle, which is a really great design, by the way. They've designed a few buildings like that in like sort of around the equator, and they cool themselves really well. And concrete is an excellent heat sink. This is a boring answer, but I think it's a good one. Is that I would actually invest. I would find investors who are interested in building geared to income housing, right? And I would build mega buildings, right? Like here's a building that can house 1,000 people, right? And it's not super fancy, but it's nice, it's solid, it's it's permanent. And then I would plant plants on the roof and all down the outside walls. So rather than here's this concrete behemoth in the middle of a concrete jungle, here's a concrete behemoth that is actually a jungle. And then here you want to come live here, it costs you 25% of your gross income. Bang. Do I make a ton of money? No. Do I get rich off of that? Nope. But I'm not interested in it. I mean, do I make, I don't know, enough money to live my life? Yeah, cool. Great. Let's take whatever money we make and build another one. And then another one. And then another one. And maybe other people get interested in them too. And if somebody wants to steal that idea, please steal that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Go do it.
Steal
Go
it
build it.
today. No credit required.
Nope. I mean, hey, if you want to send us a tip, we don't have a tip jar, do we?
No.
Oh well. Watch our videos twice so that we get lots of ad revenue or whatever. I don't know how this works.
We don't get that either.
Oh, oh well.
Come play
We gotta,
D&D with us. We're gonna
yeah,
run
there
some
you
one
go.
shots this summer.
There you go. There you go. That's
That
yeah,
sounds
that's your
fair.
reward.
That's about even.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Well, that is a hell of an answer. I don't know if I've had this conversation with you. I think I've had it with Ian before. But I'm at that stage in my life now, and this is similar, where the idea of like trying to acquire crown land in the middle of nowhere, like, Northern Ontario.
There's some right
No,
over there.
yeah. And basically building a reasonably self-sufficient city.
A
Like a
commune.
commune is exactly,
Yeah.
like a commune.
Communes
Everybody
work.
has their yeah. I think there's technology is caught up to the point where, like, a commune now doesn't have to, it's not about getting completely off the grid and disconnecting from the rest of the world necessarily. Like, modern entertainment could be available to you, internet access could be available to you even in the middle of nowhere. Power generation will be a bit of a challenge. Like, my assumption is you're off grid enough where you're not going to be tapping into anybody's power grid and buying it, right? Like the expensive stuff.
Batteries are
um
the problem.
yeah, but and maybe it isn't like, hey, you got power all day every day kind of situation or whatever, but I think you could lead a relatively modern,
Yeah.
well-paced lifestyle in a commune now. The
It
trouble
would be
is
nice
finding
to slow
enough
down.
people that you can stand being around to do it. Hopefully
Jesus.
something like that would attract like-minded people, but
I don't know. I think it would probably attract a whole lot of granola munching people who don't use deodorant.
well,
All right, so like-minded people, really.
hey, I shower
Uh,
twice a day.
I need a shower. I came home from golf and I thought I should shower, and then I fell asleep. Ah,
So if I didn't have to work and I had recurring income coming in, I think the first thing I would do is I'd build a shop for myself, just like a maker space where I could
mhm.
spend a couple of years trying to do and probably failing and giving up at some of the things that I've always said I wanted to do. You know, want to get into doing a little bit of woodworking now that I'm dorking out over some of that because I'm an old man. Um,
Just wait, it gets worse.
I would like to. Hey, listen, neither one of us are charismatic to turn this into something successful. Maybe.
Speak for yourself. I'm pretty.
You are kind of pretty. Sure do got a pretty mouth, boy.
Well, that one time in college when I really needed the money came in handy.
I don't judge. What is it that George Carlin said? Selling is legal. Fucking is legal. Why isn't selling fucking legal?
Gotta
No,
go
I
with the
think,
talents you got, right?
yeah, I think with, just my technical background, the stuff that I'm into, right? Uh, be it development, production, this kind of dorky shit. I would like to build like a shared studio type thing where people with more charisma and entertainment value than me, but maybe lack the technical skills, um, could get in and create something and make something, without having to sell their souls to, big
It,
organizations that do it, the equivalent of, record labels and stuff like that. Like there's something that boggles my mind now, in what I do for a living. One of the types of clients that we've run into frequently is chefs, celebrity chefs, people that run their own recipe websites, things like that, people that have, appeared on Food Network here and there. And it's always struck me that in, an era where people are streaming video games and people watch it, like people watch other people play video games. I watch other people play video games. I watch other people play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, it doesn't get nerdier than that. Why there hasn't been really successful, I don't know, there has been now, but really successful, like, at home chef, like, not quite the production quality of something you'd see on Food Network, but of sufficient production quality. And I mean, the answer to the question is barrier to entry, right? Like, the reason why gamers were the first people to take off in the streaming space is because they possessed sort of the innate technical skills. Gaming had enough overlap that something like streaming wasn't a giant leap for them.
yep. It's basically flipping a switch.
Yeah. But for, uh, you know, uh, your average sort of like wannabe celebrity chef, or 62-year-old woman running a cooking website or whatever, like, that is a big leap, but it doesn't need to be, it wouldn't be difficult for you to target specific sort of silos like that and essentially build kits where it's like, here's your lighting, here's your cameras, here's a box. You got to plug it in. It'll be basically pre-configured for you, and all you need to do is push this button and you're online. You're going to have a big screen facing you. All the people that are watching and talking in your chat, you're going to see it. You'll be able to interact with your audience. You'll have a couple of buttons that you can push to change cameras. If you have a multi-camera setup, maybe you got a big kitchen, and when you're ready to end, you push this button. You know,
Hmm?
reasonable canned production quality, ready to go, a little bit cookie cutter, but it's a place to start. Remove that barrier to entry where you can connect creators of a different kind with their audience without having to go through, like, the future of everything isn't the networks and the MTVs and Much Musics of your record labels. Like,
Nope.
one of the most exciting things in this world is things like podcasts and streaming. And, like, you see musicians now that are just, hey, my album's online, pay what you want, whatever you think you can afford.
Cottage industry is making a comeback, and it's
You
so
know,
good to see.
Oh, and you see it, even some of the more traditional craft stuff, right? Like woodworkers, that now I can reasonably connect with an audience outside of my little town
Yes.
So now I can make stuff and market myself, or even use platforms like Etsy to sell crafts and shit like I'm doing with my artwork. Those barriers are broken down, but like it takes somebody with certain skills to kind of like just get their foot in the door. And I
Yep.
think that it wouldn't be difficult. I don't know how profitable it would be,
Probably not
which is
very.
why I'm using it in this example where I don't need to, worry about the money. Build these little kits. Like, say, hey, you want to start your podcast and you want to do it where you got video, you want a decent camera, decent microphone. Here's your entry level thing. Are you starting on an extreme budget? Okay, here's your best bang for your buck. Here's your upgrade path.
Mm,
Here's the free software that you can use to get started. Here's some basic instructions. Here's some basic configuration ready to go. Hit record.
Hit record. Don't stutter. I was watching you. You recommended H Bomber Guy to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been watching a few of his videos, and I'm blown away by the depth of the research that he does.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching his basically counter debunking the people who were talking about Bill Nye Saves the World.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and there was one video that he brought up, and I'm watching this and go like, this guy, and it showed like his YouTube channel. It's like he's got like I don't know, like 1.87 million subscribers, and I'm like, he does not have he never speaks in coherent sentences.
Yep.
It's stutters but I mean, he's rage farming basically. Like he's telling people exactly what they want to hear. So I get why he has lots of
Mm-hmm.
viewers, but I'm thinking, like, you got to learn to talk if you're going to talk, or edit that out. I mean, seriously, because his videos are edited, right? If you're going to edit yourself, edit out the bad takes and do it again.
Yeah. But if you are willing to like foster a passionate, albeit small, core audience,
Hmm.
that's a great thing about, this world is like
It
they're
is.
willing to accept and consume authentic you,
Yeah.
you know?
There's an awful lot of sort of doom and gloom in the world, and it's presented to us on the daily.
Oh, there is. And there's, I'm sure, a
But
lot of balanced voices out there that just
that my
need the opportunity.
and there are some, but really, like the sort of the point I was trying to drive at is that like this, what you're saying right now actually gives me a lot of sort of hope, because there are people who are willing to look at who are you, and I find that interesting,
Hmm.
right? And that gives me hope for humanity. I've said before
Yeah.
that I have a lot of hope for the younger generations, because they do. We discussed it earlier, like the stuff that we took for granted as kids.
Hmm.
Kids now don't take that for granted. They
Nope.
literally look at that and go, "That's unacceptable. Stop it."
Hmm.
So
And it really does, here's the thing. It is very much the younger generation, you know? Like when I say younger, I mean not my generation, not your generation. This
I don't
this
have a generation. My generation disappeared. There were 7 of us.
a younger generation, they have to be careful with their money, but they're also willing to spend their money to support people they like and care about. Whether
Yes,
it's musicians, whether it's
artists.
podcasters, Patreon, buying shit on Etsy, woodworkers from across the world making dice trays, you know?
Buy local, but local is now global.
Right.
Yeah, your community is no longer necessarily the brick and mortar stuff that's like 2 blocks away. It's
It's your
who's a
niche.
click away. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's where do you belong in the internet community?
Yeah. And while your niche might be an incredibly small niche globally, that is
It's
still a
kind of
lot of
big.
people.
Yeah,
And there's so many people that like, I talk with people of older generations, younger generations that like, oh man, I would love to do something like that, but I don't know where to start.
Google.
Well, and even then, like, they have to wade through so much information. Something as
Oh
simple as
yeah.
like choosing a microphone for a podcast,
Oh lordy.
you know. And
I'm
I
using
don't
a
even
headset.
yeah, I don't even have a great one, but like, there's there there still is a thing where, as a rule, you need to sort of hit a minimum production quality bar for
Yeah.
something to really be digestible for all but like the most sort of rabid loyal fan base,
Yes.
you know. But that minimum bar for production quality is not what you would see on TV. So going back
No.
to the cooking show kind of thing, and this is where it was really funny, is during the pandemic when a lot of the studios shut down, I saw it's like Rachel Ray, for example, was doing some live streamy type stuff out of her house, and it was absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Like in terms of production quality. Now she's a great sort of personality herself, and like, but there's a lot of other people out there like her, or extremely personable and charismatic and entertaining in their own ways, and all they got to do is just hit that good
That
enough.
good
and
enough.
and I think the world would be a better place because there would be less people having to tune into the shit, then the commercial garbage.
Yeah.
And if I could help 10 creators do that, succeed where I'm not going to succeed because I'm not overly charismatic or personable, I'm kind of a dick.
I'm glad that you've recognized that about yourself.
Yeah, but I know how to code. I can build platforms that do anything you want. You want sort of a turnkey, all-in-one solution that helps you do your video streaming, replaces something like Patreon for sort of supporting you individually, make it easy for you to sell merch without ever having to worry about it. Here's my image. I'm selling merch, all print on demand, direct to garment printing stuff. Boom. Takes care of itself. You don't gotta buy stock. Somebody orders it, it gets print, gets fulfilled, you get your money.
Because there are people out there who are experts at doing that. Let them do their work.
Right. But
Sounds
connecting all of those dots, like that's the other missing component, right? Even for the
yeah.
people that like are technically inclined, is there aren't really sort of package solutions ready to go. It's, well, I know I need to run a podcast. Well, I got to get on Apple Podcasts somehow, and I got to get on Google, and what's this Stitcher thing, and well, I kind of want to do YouTube too, and but like I'm not going to get money from any one of those. So if I want to get money from my audience directly, maybe I got to use Patreon, and like it's a lot for somebody wanting to do, to break into to try and figure it all out. And I think if I had infinite time on my hands and didn't need to worry about making money, I think that's what I would do. After I burnt
I,
myself out doing the stuff that I want to do, like, try and make a
yeah.
big D&D table, woodworking project, and
Oh, I want to change my answer. Short term, I'd build a trebuchet. Because why not? Got
why
time,
not?
I got money, I'm building a trebuchet. I'm going to launch a cow across the river.
Yeah. Just oh, maybe I won't say that. Okay, just don't build a submarine.
Oh, no. If I had built, I have actually built pressure vessels before. I'm pretty sure my submarine would do better.
Well,
But,
you would know enough to say, you know what?
yeah,
This might work, but there's zero chance I'm going to have anybody step foot in that.
yeah. Yep. Like, hey, let's do some math and some calculations. Is this rated for where we're going? No? Let's not go there. Yeah.
I know we're a little bit more cowboyish and cavalier about space now. Now that it's mostly a commercial industry, and don't get me wrong, SpaceX is doing amazing things. I follow all the shit that they do, and I'm it's amazing. It's truly amazing. But our approach to human rated flight is the way it is for a reason. There's a few times that we've grown lax about it, and that's when things like Challenger and Columbia happen. And then
Yep.
we realized, oh shit. And now what qualified as lax then is still incredibly regulated by the standards of random dude building a submarine to show people a Titanic.
Yeah.
And space is easier to get to than that deep in the ocean. It is safer to get to than that deep in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
human rating a vessel to carry people into space, like the shit that you have to go through to do that, Not just
It's
for
the reason
NASA
that
themselves, but like for commercial ventures. Like there's a reason why Boeing isn't flying Starliner right now because it's not ready.
yeah. Well, it's the reason that a hammer costs $10,000. I mean, the hammer itself came from Home Hardware or Home Depot or wherever, your local big
Hmm.
box store. It was somebody figuring out what could go wrong with where we're storing this hammer or how we're going to use this hammer. Is there a better solution? Is this the best solution? I need to test all of these things to see what happens. Like, what if this hammer gets loose? What does it damage? What
Hmm.
happens? Right? And all of that human time, you're paying somebody to figure that stuff out. So the hammer cost $10,000. The first hammer cost $10,000. The next one costs $500 because you got to make sure it's the same hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was our controversial segment for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Please send your angry emails to Shane and not me, because I have definitely done all of my complaining in an offline kind of manner about that situation.
Well, see, you have people to complain about that stuff too at work.
No, I don't. Like this is my office. Like I'm
Okay, fine. You talk to people that are engineers,
I do. I do.
people that get that shit.
Yeah, engineers, scientists, PhDs,
Yeah.
multiple PhDs
You know,
sometimes.
you talk to people that when you hear the online meme, oh, NASA spends $10 million on a pen that can write in space. Russia uses a pencil. You talk to people that know why they went with a pen.
Yes, because a pencil causes fires and Russia didn't use a pencil. They also used a pen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Little chips and flakes of graphite floating in a, you know.
yeah, it's never been lead. It's always been graphite, and graphite is very flammable and very dangerous as a dust.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right, man. Well, I think that covers what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm done making stuff up.
All right. Well, it's funny how almost perfectly organically every time at like right around the 2 hour mark, we just run out of stuff to talk about.
Oh, I mean, I could go on forever. Honestly, I'm trying to say nicely. Hey,
Yeah,
I
it's
want
bedtime.
it's bedtime. I want to still be married when I go downstairs, and also like I'm almost done this drink.
Yeah.
I only brought
Well,
two up.
I actually ran out about halfway through and had to drink nearly straight gin. So,
Good for you.
yeah.
You did say at the beginning of last episode that it could get complicated.
Yeah, there's like four different bottles on my desk of things to mix together. It's like a junior chemistry set. Any minute now, I'm going to turn into the Hulk.
That's great. Well, I can't wait to hear how your time with Lee Trevino's fighting golf is going.
Oh God, I need to make a note of that. Lee Trevino fighting golf and the original Fallout.
Actually, might get a little emotional playing it. It's one of the only video games my dad played with me.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it better than Wii Golf? We'll find out next week.
Oh, I mean, it is. It's what? When did it come out? 1987, 1988. Like, it's not. It's actually was my memory of it. Now, again, I was a kid when I played it. Was that like this was pretty amazing at the time? But have you ever seen screenshots from like some of the old Jack Nicklaus golf games from like the
Yeah, like the Golden Tee and stuff like that.
yeah, the stuff from like PC Junior era, like stuff
Oh
that you're going to
yeah,
play on like a IBM AT computer, and um,
yes,
wow.
yep. The balls are definitely square.
um, yeah, and I mean this game is very much like that too. But it was you probably played. I don't know if you had one or not, but you probably played the golf game that was big on the Game Boy. I think
I
everybody
don't
played it.
think that I did. I had tennis and I had Tetris.
Mm,
Those were the
okay.
things I had
Well,
Game
my
Boy.
recollection is that Lee Trevino's fighting golf on the NES was better than the golf game on the Game Boy. And I
Okay.
spent a lot of time with the golf game on the Game Boy too.
Hmm. All right. Well, I will go and see if I can figure out how to do that, and then see if I can upsample it to 2K.
You can.
Yep. I'm not sure that the quality improves.
No.
Certainly not.
And it's amazing going back and playing some of those games where it's like, oh wow, my recollection of this is that it was better, not just because of rose-colored glasses, but because it was meant to be played on a CRT.
Oh yeah, yeah. Motion blur and like bleeding edges of pixels was important.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like Lemmings or what's the other one that I played? There was. Do you remember Comanche Maximum Overkill?
I think so.
Like Cirrus Logic or whatever. I remember getting that and thinking, oh man, these graphics are amazing. You're like piloting this helicopter down valleys and stuff. Then you see gameplay footage of it now and you think, oh my God, was it really that bad? Because it's awful.
Go back
Like
and look at some of the
awful.
early like Microsoft Flight Simulator games.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. Yeah. Your plane is basically two sticks.
But you know what was good enough for us then? It should be good enough for us now.
And I had an onion tied to my belt, which was the style at the time.
Of course.